Have you ever fought hard and reached a savings goal you once thought was impossible? For example, have you ever crossed $10,000 for the first time only to watch that money disappear far faster than you saved it? Most people make the same mistake the moment they hit their first real savings milestone. They treat it as an achievement to celebrate, and they end up spending it on a new car, a new phone, or a vacation. Or maybe you have $10,000 sitting in your account right now. You worked hard, you sacrificed, you gave up most of the things you wanted, and you finally reached this milestone, but you have no idea what to do next. I want to share a truth with you. The decision you make when you hit $10,000 is the turning point that decides whether you build real wealth or end up right back where you started. And in over 30 years of accounting and investment banking, I've seen the vast majority of people make exactly the wrong choice at this critical moment. If you want your hard work to actually pay off, for this to be the starting point of building wealth rather than a temporary win, watch this video to the end and don't forget to subscribe and hit like. Here's what most people get completely wrong about reaching $10,000. They treat it like a bonus. You worked hard, you sacrificed, you said no to what you wanted over and over again, and you finally hit $10,000, and your brain immediately kicks in. Celebrate. You deserve to treat yourself. Finally buy the thing you wanted. And before you even realize it, that $10,000 is gone, spent on a nicer car, a vacation you've convinced yourself you earned, and other purchases that felt small in the moment. 6 months later, with the balance almost back to zero, you start asking yourself why building wealth is so hard. Here's the truth. $10,000 is both a lot of money and, in terms of real wealth, almost nothing. $10,000 isn't enough for real financial security, it's not enough for retirement, and it barely covers a few months of expenses if you lose your job. $10,000 isn't wealth. It's the foundation you build wealth on top of. And what you do next determines everything. If you've hit $10,000 and you're not making progress, here's why. The money usually sits in your checking account, always visible. That makes your brain treat it less like savings and more like money that's comfortable to spend. Eating out more often, upgrading your phone when you didn't need to, unnecessary purchases start creeping in. Your savings shrink over time. You notice it shrinking, you promise yourself you won't do the same thing next month. But next month, an unexpected expense shows up, a medical bill or a car repair, and the savings shrink even further. This is the cycle that keeps people stuck. Save the money, keep it in an easily accessible account, then use it during an emergency and watch it drain away. So what did the people who actually built real wealth do? It's going to sound almost too simple, but I'll say it anyway. This is the real foundation of financial security. The moment you hit $10,000, split that money into different roles so it's not easy to touch, and build a savings basket across precious metals, a high-yield savings account, a high-return fund, or stock investments. That way, it's not constantly in view and your brain stops treating it as available money it can find a reason to spend. Here's exactly what you should do the day you hit $10,000. First, move $3,000 to $5,000 into a completely separate high-yield savings account. And don't touch it except for real emergencies. A car breaking down, losing your job, a health crisis. That's what counts as an emergency. It matters that this emergency fund is physically separate from your everyday spending money because that separation has a huge psychological effect. When you have $10,000 in your checking account, your brain thinks you have $10,000 of spending power. But when $2,000 sits in checking and $3,000 sits in a separate account, you've committed not to touch. Your brain adjusts to living on $2,000, Another mistake most people make is keeping this separated savings in a single account. Yes, that's a good start, but it's even better to earn interest in a fixed term account rather than letting the money simply sit there. Otherwise, inflation erodes it. You protect the money, but you don't grow it. Once you've moved $3,000 to $5,000 into an interest-bearing account for emergencies, that doesn't shrink you financially and it covers most of what a real emergency requires. The remaining money goes into broad-based index funds for compound growth, left untouched for months or even years, so it can grow. What most people investing don't understand is that investing isn't about getting rich fast. It's about growing your money faster than inflation erodes it. When you invest $5,000 in an index fund, it obviously won't become $10,000 a month later. But as months and years pass, it grows into far more. What it takes is simply investing the money and letting it grow without touching it. The real difference between people who build wealth and people who stay stuck is using that first $10,000 as the first ramp toward wealth. Once you've built your savings basket, set up automatic transfers every month from your paycheck, say $100 into the emergency portion and $200 into the fund or stock portion, so the growth keeps going. These amounts can vary based on your income and needs, but the principle stays the same. Whether you're motivated or not, whether life gets harder, whatever your friends' lavish vacations might tempt you to do, none of it should break this system you built with such enthusiasm. Motivation gets you started. The system keeps you going once motivation fades. The system is simple. Your income comes into checking, a portion goes to the emergency fund, a portion goes into a fixed term or stock account, and you live on the rest. Now let's talk about the thing that trips up almost everyone the first time they hit $10,000, the temptation to use it as a down payment on something big. Using this first $10,000 as a down payment for starting a business, a house, or a car isn't necessarily a bad idea in itself. But spending this first savings on those things sends you right back to square one. You get locked into months of payments, and the moment something goes wrong, you have no buffer left, and financial stress becomes inevitable. Growing that first savings to $20,000, $30,000, or $50,000 before using it as a down payment for a house or car keeps a healthy emergency fund intact. People who actually build real wealth do something different. After hitting $10,000, they keep saving. They reach $20,000, $30,000, $50,000. And only then, when they buy a house, do they put down a 20% down payment, keep a healthy emergency fund, and comfortably cover the monthly payment instead of stretching themselves thin. I know this feels slow and boring, and you want the house, the car, or whatever you're dreaming of now, not years from now. But you need to understand the difference between people who build wealth and people who stay stuck almost entirely comes down to patience and delayed gratification. Poor people, when they see $10,000, think about what they can buy with it right now. Wealthy people, when they see $10,000, think about what it could become if they're patient. And that difference in perspective determines everything. Let's talk about taxes for a moment, because a lot of people mess this up without realizing it. Where you put that $5,000 to $7,000, your investing matters enormously for tax purposes. If you open a regular brokerage account and invest, you'll pay tax on dividends and capital gains. Not the end of the world, but not optimal either. That's why, as I've mentioned before, an individual retirement account is probably the single best place to put your first investment money. A retirement account lets you contribute money that's already been taxed. And after that, everything that money earns grows completely tax-free forever. You invest $5,000 today, it grows to 50,000 over 20 or 30 years, and you pay not a single cent of tax on that $45,000 in gains. Compare that to a regular investment account where gains get taxed at 15 to 20%. A retirement account can save you thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime, just because you made the right choice about where to put your money the moment you hit your first $10,000. Retirement account annual contribution limits shift from time to time, but they're generally around $6,000 to $7,000. So when you hit $10,000, you can max out that year's retirement account contribution and still have money left for your emergency fund. When you manage that $10,000 correctly, something else happens too. You start to genuinely understand the difference between saving and investing and why both matter but serve different purposes. The emergency fund in your high-yield savings account is savings, safe, accessible, but it doesn't grow much. The money in your index funds is investing. It will fluctuate, it may drop at times, but over the long run, it should grow far faster than inflation. Most people think these are the same thing or they only do one of the two. Every wealthy person I've observed in my 30-plus year career understands they need both: saving for short-term security and emergencies, investing for long-term wealth building and retirement. When you split your $10,000 between an emergency fund and investments, you're actually activating both systems at once, protecting yourself against immediate threats, while also moving toward future financial freedom. And once you understand that, you'll never go back to keeping all your money in checking or in a savings account that barely grows. Now, let's tackle the biggest psychological barrier keeping people from doing all this: the fear of locking money away somewhere they can't easily reach. They worked so hard to save that $10,000, and putting $5,000 of it into an investment account they can't withdraw whenever they want feels frightening. What if they need it? What if a real emergency comes up? What if they regret it? This fear is what keeps people poor, because they never make the leap from cash to real investing. But here's the truth. If you've properly set up your $3,000 to $5,000 emergency fund, you can get through most emergencies without ever touching your investments. If something truly catastrophic happens and your emergency fund isn't enough, yes, you can withdraw from your investment account. You might pay taxes or penalties depending on the account type, but you can access it. The point isn't locking the money away forever. Putting it somewhere that takes a few extra steps to access protects you from impulse purchases and lifestyle creep. In my 30-year career, the people I've seen build serious wealth all did the same thing. They hit $10,000, immediately made that money harder to spend, set up their accounts, automated the transfers, and then more or less forgot about it while the system worked in the background, focusing instead on earning more and living their lives. The people who stayed stuck kept everything easily accessible and kept wondering why their money kept disappearing. In the end, this first $10,000 obviously didn't make you rich, but you built a system that will keep growing for the rest of your life. Use your gains correctly, divide them, invest them, protect them, keep it consistent. And 10 years from now, you'll look back on today as the turning point. Use it the wrong way, spend it, use it as a down payment before you're ready, and 10 years from now, you'll still be trying to save your first $10,000, wondering why it's so hard. The choice is entirely yours, and right now, whether you realize it or not, you're already making that choice.